Part 17. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 161. Chapter 161 Arrival. Mujukin looked at Yuan and thought to himself, this Yuan is really smart, but how can he say he is his private soldier? No matter what, they are all members of the royal family. In the eyes of the royal family, the officials below are not allowed to raise private soldiers, they can only be palace guards, and each rank has a quantitative limit. He said he had private soldiers. This clearly told others that you had broken the law and were waiting for them to deal with you later. However, he has a group of secret guards that the emperor asked him to train, which can be adjusted. Then he said, I have a group of people on hand that can be used. I can mobilize 300 people, but I have to go back and explain to the emperor. That's it, then I'll ask Xiaojin to go back with you. That's all. You can bring the person here directly, and we'll discuss what to do next. Mujukin nodded. He knew that the emperor must agree. The 50,000 strong army was a thorn in the heart and had to be removed. Xiaojin took Mujukin back to the capital at this time. Ms. Feng now had a worried look on her face. She said, Xiao Sier, I'm afraid we can't handle so many people with just a few people. Do you want to call your Uncle Bai back? Yuan shook her head and said, Mom, Uncle Bai must not leave at this time at the border. Don't worry, even if we can't be beaten by then, you can let the little snake Xiaojin take us to escape. There are also 2 white tigers in her space. In the past few years, they have grown into giant tigers in the space, almost rivaling the monster beasts. There were also some ferocious beasts. When the time came, she decided to let the 2 white tigers lead the ferocious beasts to cooperate with Yu Yi and others in attacking the army. Yu Yi and the others are very familiar with the beasts in the space. They are the same beasts that were fainting in the valley that she collected in Hulu Mountain. She has forgotten to let them out, and now they are all in the space. Yuan took Feng's hand and said, Mom, if you don't go, it's okay to have 1 more or 1 less. Feng's condition is not suitable for going any further. The battle has not even been fought yet, and she has already become weak. She was afraid that the Feng family would not be able to resist them when they really faced each other. After all, the opponent was still a monk who was more numerous than them. Ms. Feng shook her head. She didn't understand what Yuan meant when she heard it. Then she took a deep breath to return to normal. She said, Mom is going. Don't worry, little 4. Mom is not timid. It is a taboo for military strategists to lose their morale before they go to the battlefield. Although she has never actually been on the battlefield, she often listens to Bai Zi talk about things on the battlefield, and she hears a lot about it. Xiao Sier, why don't you call your brother and the others? Their cultivation level is not low. This is also a good opportunity to practice their skills. Yuan twitched. She couldn't keep up with her mother's thoughts. Just now she was told not to go, but she immediately asked Yu Heiran and the others to take her with her. Okay, let the little snake go back and bring it. She waved her hand and the little snake came out. After she told the little snake also flew back to the capital. At night, Xiaoxi and Xiaojin landed at the same time. In addition to the 300 people brought by Mujukin, 3 brothers, Yu Heiran, Yu Hao, and Yu Haoshan, also came down. Mother, little 4th son, the 3 brothers walked towards them as soon as they came down. Mujukin arranged for the next 300 people to come to them. General Mu, the 3 brothers said hello to Mujukin who was approaching. How do you do, Mr. Yu? How do you do, Mr. Yu? Mujukin returned the courtesy one by one. He looked at their beautiful family, and he was under a lot of pressure. It would not be easy to marry Yuan. General Mu, please sit down, Yu Heiran asked. Please, Mr. Yu. A few people sat down after being polite. Yuan saw it with sore teeth. Don't be polite, Let's arrange things and leave immediately. Zeze changed. She destroyed the goo insect base, fearing that others would have discovered it long ago. As expected, the few people were no longer polite. Yu Heiran said, "General Mu, you are an expert in fighting. You will take charge of this matter." Mujukan looked at Yuan, who nodded, and then he said, "What I mean is this. Xiao Snake will deal with the 2 foundation building monks, and Xiao Jin will be responsible for the surrounding defense. As long as someone comes, he will kill him if he can. 2 There are 9 of us among the 10 Qi training monks. Each of us will deal with 2, and I will leave the remaining 2 to me. I think their cultivation levels may not all be the same. Whoever kills the opponent first will immediately help the others. Those 50,000 soldiers, let Yu Yi and the Sirius team carry out a sneak attack, specifically." After Mujukan finished speaking, everyone agreed. Yuan said it was feasible for Yu Yi and the others to sneak attack and assassinate the leader first, and then carry out a large-scale killing. The army is based on obeying orders. Without a leader, they will not run away, but without anyone to direct them to fight, their combat effectiveness will be greatly reduced. As for the monks, they just need to end the battle quickly and then go to help. Plus her army of beasts. From this point of view, it is still feasible. Then let's set off, Yuan said. Okay, everyone stands up and gets ready. More than 5 days later, at night, the little snake Xiaojin hovered over the army station. "Master, where are you landing? You come closer, we will land inside the station, and there should be their defenses outside. At this time, the place where they are cooking should be where there are few people, so we will land there." "Okay, Master, the kitchen is an important place, the smell of oil smoke is strong, the little snake can find it in a few clicks." The little snake Xiaojin stopped at a place more than 10 feet above the ground. After it created a barrier, everyone started to jump down. After everyone jumped down, Yuan took out the poison from the space and gave it to Yu Yi and the Sirius members. "This is a poison. We will use it when we fight against the enemy later. You can first spread the poison in front of their building or within their activity range. Of course, it is also possible to enter the water." Everyone nodded. After Yuan finished explaining them, Yu Yi took them to hide. At this time, she took out the talismans from the space. Anyway, there were all kinds of talismans, and she handed out 20 talismans to each of them. She should have given these things before departure, but she went into the space to sort them out while taking a break. "This is a talisman. You should give it to me before you leave. You only need to input spiritual power to activate this talisman. After activation, throw it at the enemy. Don't hold it. Otherwise, you will be wronged if you blow yourself up. Pay attention, these talismans are powerful. Big, when you hit the opponent, you must jump away immediately, and you must also pay attention to the talisman in the opponent's hand." After saying this, they jumped on the back of the little snake and flew to the place where the monks lived. The little snake can create a barrier, and even the monks in the foundation building stage cannot detect it. The monks live on the mountainside, and they all live in dug caves. The little snake descended 10 feet away from their cave. 9 people came down quietly. "Little snake, please check the specific situation in the cave." Yuan sent a message to the little snake. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 162. Chapter 162 Injured. The little snake accepted the order and immediately let go of its spiritual consciousness to investigate. After a long time, the little snake sent a message back to her, "Master, the 2 foundation building monks are in the 2 caves on the far right, and the remaining 20 people are in the 2 caves on the far right. The last one is for a monk on the 12th level of Qi training, the 5th one is for a monk on the 11th level of Qi training, and the others are on the 5th to 9th level of Qi training. There is only one in the 8th room, and the master can let the mistress deal with him. Yuan nodded, and after praising the little snake for his ability, she immediately told everyone what the little snake had found. Mujukan did not hesitate at all. He said, I will deal with the two with the highest level of cultivation, and I can deal with the others with low level of cultivation. Yuan rolled her eyes at him. This man was quite talented. He had only practiced Qi at the 11th level, and he still had to deal with the two top ones. Think this is just a child playing house? No, I will deal with the one who is at the 11th level of Qi training, my mother will deal with the one who is at the 9th level of Qi training, and the others. Yuan finished speaking in one breath, and she asked, if you have no objections, we can start taking action. No, just follow what Xia said, Fen nodded and decided. The three Yuhairan brothers and the three Shita people definitely have no objections. Mujukan had no choice but to compromise in the end, and his good intentions were in vain. He is not just trying to be hot-headed. He has his own methods. Even though he only has the 11th level of Qi training, the spiritual power in his body is strong enough to fight in the early stage of foundation building. In addition, his ancestors have stayed in the reserve. With the contents in the bag, he will surely win. Mujukan began to deploy. After everyone received their tasks, the little snake withdrew from the barrier. It quickly flew to the two foundation building caves and immediately enveloped them in the barrier. Everyone, be careful. After Mujukan said this, he took a deep look at Yuan, and then rushed to the cave on the 12th floor of Qi training. He wanted to kill that person quickly, and then help Feng and the others. Even if he died today, his family would not be hurt. What's more, this is the best opportunity to gain favor, and he won't miss it. Yuan was inexplicably surprised by what he saw. She waited for them all to leave before she instantly moved out the two white tigers. When the white tigers came out and saw her, they all rubbed against her and licked her hands. Yuan held up Dabai's head and said to it, hey, don't worry, wait until the master gives you a group of brothers, you two can take them to help Yu Yi and the others fight the bad guys, okay? Dabai nodded humanely. It raised its head and was about to howl. Yuan immediately pinched its mouth and said, don't make any noise. Dabai rolled his tiger eyes and nodded. Yuan moved the beasts out of the space at this time. When they were confused, Dabai and Xiaobai stood in front of them, and the beasts fell down in fear. Dabai was very satisfied. He whimpered a few times and then followed Dabai and Xiaobai in the direction of Yu Yi in front of Yuan. Yuan then rushed directly to the outside of the fifth cave. At this time it has been opened, the scene is very chaotic, magic talismans are flying all over the sky. Where are the 11th level Qi practitioners? When she arrived, there was no one in the cave. She looked around. My grass, Yuan ran over quickly. Boom, a fireball talisman was thrown at the 11th level of Qi training, breaking Yuhairan's siege. It turned out that Yuhairan saw her a little late and knew that she must have something to do, so he went directly to the 11th level of Qi training. He knew that he was no match for her, but he had to support that person. He only relied on the talisman to support her until she came forward. Brother, how are you? Yuan immediately stood in front of him and asked. It's okay, Xiao Sier, be careful, that man has a defensive weapon on him, Yuhairan said breathlessly. So that's the case, she said, the talisman she gave was very powerful, how come the man was still alive and kicking without any injuries? She immediately took out a stack of talismans and put them in Yuhairan's hand, and then used her flying sword to attack the 11th level of Qi training. The 11th level of Qi training was not feeling well at this time. His head was blown up by Yuhairan's talisman. If the explosion continued, the defensive armor on his body would be scrapped. Just as he was attacking Yuhairan fiercely, Yuan arrived and threw another fireball talisman on him. At this time, his armor was completely worn out, and at this time, the hateful female nun took the initiative to attack him. Boom, he pinched it with his hands, and a fireball the size of a rubber ball came towards Yuan. Yuan hurriedly staggered her steps. Boom, the fireball hit the place where she was standing, immediately creating a big crater, where a large area was burned black by the fireball. Dong dong dong, Yuan could hear her own heartbeat. The 11th level of Qi training was indeed much stronger than her. If she had slowed down just now, she would have been hit by the fireball. What was in his mind was just her for a moment. When the 11th level Qi practitioner saw that her attack failed, he angrily attacked Yuan with another fireball. Yuan snorted coldly in her heart, she almost got hit just now, do you think there are one and two? Do you really think that her 10th level of Qi training is just for show? She quickly retracted her flying sword and continued to perform the magic with her hands. A fireball that was about the same size flew out and hit the fireball on the 11th level of Qi training head on. Suddenly, there was a boom, 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 the two fireballs collided, and the heat wave flew away, causing the two of them to take a few steps back. The 11th level of Qi training was shocked. The power of her fireball was not much less than his. The strength of this female cultivator should not be underestimated. He cheered up and did not dare to underestimate Yuan again. And Yuan was stunned for a moment when she saw the 11th level of Qi training. Whoops, she disappeared. When she reappeared, she was already behind the 11th level of Qi training. She decisively threw out two ice arrow talismans. Humph, I can't stab you to death, Yuan snorted coldly. One attack was less powerful, so she threw two of them, flanking each other. People's instinctive reaction is to dodge to the left or right. She was standing in front of him, so he wouldn't dodge forward at all. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to dodge this time. Sure enough, the man dodged to the left and hit the ice spike talisman. Ah, the 11th level Qi practitioner groaned. Before he had time to react, Yuan's two fireball talismans arrived. Boom boom, the fireball talisman immediately surrounded him. At the 11th level of Qi training, I threw water on my body for free, hoping to extinguish the fire on my body. Yuan would not give him a chance. The spells and talismans she knew were free of charge. After dozens of breaths, the 11th level of Qi training collapsed and died. Yuan quickly went over and grabbed the storage bag from his waist. At this moment, the 11th level Qi practitioner, who was already out of breath, punched Yuan in the chest, and he finally swallowed his breath. Poof, Yuan spit out blood and fell to the ground. She was careless, these three words flashed in her mind. This blow was the most fatal. Attacking her at close range, even if the power of this blow at the 11th level of Qi training was less than half of what it was at its peak, it still damaged her internal organs, especially her heart, which was basically broken. At the moment of fainting, she dodged into the spatial spiritual spring pool. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 163. Chapter 163 Execution of Wang Lu. Yuan woke up from the pain. She immediately took out a healing elixir and swallowed it, then crossed her legs and performed exercises in the pool to heal her injuries. Half an hour later, Yuan opened her eyes and her injuries had been repaired by 20%. This time she was careless. She thought the man was dead, but he was not completely dead. She must learn a lesson from situations like this in the future. Fortunately, the power of that man's blow was greatly reduced, otherwise today would be really cool. She swallowed another healing elixir. After another half an hour, she stood up and applied a cleansing technique on her body. Her body was immediately refreshed and clean. Sanzu, why are you sitting here? Yuan got up and saw Sanzu still sitting here. She couldn't help but ask. "Miss, are you ready?" "I." Sanzu didn't finish his words and glanced at Wang Lu. Yuan instantly understood that Wang Lu was afraid that he wanted to take advantage of her unconsciousness and attack her. She suddenly became furious and stared at Wang Lu with cold eyes. Wang Lu felt a chill in his chest. He knew that Sanzu would definitely tell Yuan that the matter was exposed. Yes, Yuan fell into the pool, and both of them heard it, but Sanzu ran over first and saw that it was her. Sanzu knew that she was injured, so he was going to go back to do his work. He couldn't help her get better immediately. Anyway, she would be fine after soaking in the Lingquan pool for a while. Just as he was turning around to leave, Wang Lu actually attacked Yuan, and it was too late for Sanzu to stop him. When Sanzu finished shouting in his mind, the strange thing was that Wang Liu's punch could not hurt Yuan at all. Wang Lu was stunned. He knew that he had done something stupid and ran away to hide. And Sanzu was afraid that Wang Lu would come again, so he simply sat on the edge of the pool and waited for Yuan to wake up. Yuan understood at this moment that the space must be automatically protecting her as the master. She said to Sanzu, "It's okay, go and do your work." "Thank you very much." Sanzu scratched the back of his head, nodded sheepishly, and went back to work. Yuan stared at the back of Sanzu. This man had completely changed. She thought that she would give him his freedom if she found a chance. Wang Lu couldn't hide now even if he wanted to. How could he escape on her territory? "I wanted to save her life, but I didn't want him to almost kill her, so why did she keep him?" Although Yuan was only half recovered from her injuries, in the space, Wang Lu was the lamb to be slaughtered, letting her be slaughtered. Plop, Wang Lu kneeled down in front of Yuan with tears streaming down his face. "Please, miss, I won't know how to do it anymore, and I won't dare to do it anymore. Please spare me." Yes, he really didn't dare. This magical place must be the legendary life space. His blow was not fatal, it just confirmed his guess, and the space automatically protected the master. He thought that if Yuan died, he could contract the space, and this most precious treasure in the world would be his. Now he regrets it to death. Humph. "I wanted to spare your life, but you dare to plot against me and beg me not to kill you. Do you think I'm your mother? Just beg and everything will be fine? It's too late. You shouldn't be greedy." After finishing her words, Yuan punched Wang Lu on the head. Wang Lu groaned, fell to the ground and died. Yuan didn't blink an eye when a fireball came down, burning Wang Lu completely. After that, she quickly sorted out a lot of talismans. Now that her injuries are not healed, she can only rely on these talismans. She doesn't know what's going on outside. When she stepped out of the space, the fighting on the field had ended, and only the loud shouts of killing could be heard from the military camp. She quickly checked the scene and found no body, so she hurried to the camp. Sure enough, in the camp, there were corpses everywhere, and less than 10% of the people were still fighting, but they were all brave, and Feng and the others couldn't get any advantage. Yuan scanned around and found that all 8 of them were fine. She breathed a sigh of relief, as long as they were fine. She ran toward the place with the most soldiers and immediately threw out the talisman. Boom, 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 the talisman exploded, killing and injuring all the soldiers. "Xiao Sier, where have you been?" Yu Heiran jumped over, grabbed her, and asked eagerly. "It's okay, brother, let's clean up first." "Good." Yuan gave him another stack of talismans. Yu Heiran did not refuse, took it and ran away. Yuan took the talisman and clicked it. She opened a path and went straight to Feng's side. "Mom, take it and smash it." She put it into Feng's hand and ran away. She just sent the talisman to everyone's hands. The fighting on the field gradually subsided, and she saw that there was no problem, and the soldiers were holding on. Then she started looking for Dabai and Xiaobai. There was no one on the field. Yuan frowned. Why were they not there? Could it be that they were killed? She felt nervous, and she left the center of the battlefield and looked for it on the periphery. Just when she was desperate, a painful sound of wuwu came from down in her consciousness. Dabai, Xiaobai, Yuan called. Wu sounded a few more times. Yuan was sure it was Dabai and Xiaobai, so she climbed down the hillside. Dabai, indeed it is Dabai. It is lying on the ground, its white hair is now covered in mud and blood. Dabai, don't be afraid, the master is here to save you. Yuan stepped forward and stuffed a healing pill into its mouth. Dabai swallowed it, and tears rolled down from the corners of his eyes. Are you worried about Xiaobai? Where is Xiaobai? Yuan saw that there was only Dabai here, not Xiaobai. Dabai whined twice, but she couldn't understand it, so she had to put Dabai away. She searched for Xiaobai again in the area. None of the beasts she had released before were missing, and she would not look for them even after they ran away, but she wanted to find Xiaobai. And I don't know what's going on with Xiao Jin and Xiao Snake now. There was also Yu Yi and the others, and Dabai was injured. I don't know if they are all alive. Xiao Sier, Feng's voice came out at this time. Mother, I'm here. Feng she ran over. Xiao Sier, what are you looking for? Mom, I'm looking for Xiaobai, a white tiger that I released before to help Yu Yi and the others. I just found Dabai, and there is still Xiaobai that I haven't found yet. White tiger, Mrs. Feng was surprised, her fourth son also raised a tiger. Immediately, she slapped her head. When they came over, they did see two big white tigers leading a group of beasts biting the soldiers. At that time, they saw that Yu Yi was commanding them, so they didn't pay attention, so they went to kill the enemy. In the end, no one paid attention to them. Mom, you're here, have you finished dealing with those soldiers? Yes, General Mu and Ranner will help the rest. Mom will come find you, said Feng. Mom, let's look for it together with you. Yuan nodded, and they went to find another place. Master, Master, come quickly, Xiao Jin flew over with a whoosh. Xiao Jin, what's wrong? Speak slowly, don't rush. Yuan grabbed Xiao Jin who was spinning around her. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 164. Chapter 164. Follow the clues. Master, follow me quickly. Xiaobai has been kidnapped. Where is the little snake? Xiaojin finally finished the sentence. What? Hijacking? Who hijacked it? She would have laughed if the situation wasn't inappropriate. Who hijacked a tiger? I don't know how full I am from eating. Xiaojin ignored them and simply flew out of the camp. The mother and daughter followed. About 20 feet away, in Yuan's consciousness, Yu Yi and Tianlang's people surrounded two people. One person was holding a member of Tianlang hostage, and the other was holding Xiaobai hostage. Judging from the auras on their bodies, they should be the two monks in the foundation building stage. Their condition is not very good at this time. But the one man and one tiger they held hostage was even worse. Master, are you here? The little snake called. Yuan quickly ran over. Yu Yi and the others immediately made a way for her. She went in and stood opposite the two people. The two of them saw a female cultivator at the 10th level of Qi training coming in, and everyone around them was very respectful to her. Xiaojin was still behind her, and the white tiger in her hands moved. They were sure that she was the leader. So the person who held the white tiger hostage said to Yuan, "Let us go. We will let this person and the tiger go, and the others are not allowed to chase us." After that, they all looked at Yuan, waiting for her to make a decision. Feng didn't say a word, she stood beside her. Yuan pondered for a moment, then she nodded and said, "Yes, but the same thing, You are not allowed to hurt the people in your hands or the people present at all. Otherwise, you are dead. The last sentence, she bit hard. She wanted to save one person and one tiger first. They had no hostages. It would be easy for the little snake to find them again. She also has a plan to follow the clues. Once these two people are safe, they will definitely find their people. The two of them looked around and nodded. Yuan waved to the people behind them to make way for them. Everyone immediately got out of the way. Seeing this, the two men slowly exited the encirclement with one man and one tiger in their hands. After they exited, they quickly ran towards the dense forest. Everyone at the scene looked at her, and she shook her head and said, "Don't chase her." She said to Feng, "Mom, take them down to help clean up the battlefield, heal those who need to be injured, and then evacuate here quickly." Mrs. Feng nodded and said to Yuan, "Little four, be careful." Then she waved and everyone followed her back. Xiaojin left with Feng, and he was indispensable when evacuating. "Master," after they all left, the little snake flew over. It was in a very depressed mood. Yuan touched it and said, "It's okay, as long as you are okay, we will find them now." The little snake then raised its head. After nodding, it started to chase the two of them in the direction of their escape. The master and the servant chased after him looking for breath. The two men were seriously injured. They would definitely not be able to escape quickly or far. After 30 feet, I saw a man and a tiger lying in the forest. Yuan hurriedly stepped forward to check it out, but she could only breathe. Those two people completely shattered their meridians. She frowned. Was this to prevent her from catching up with them? Or a warning to her? "Master, do we want to chase him?" the little snake asked. Yuan fed one person and one tiger a healing elixir and then collected the space. She stood up and looked at the direction the two left. She would definitely chase them. How could she let go of the ruined person so easily? "Little snake, you are like this." After Yuan told the little snake what to do, he jumped on its back and flew into the sky to hide. In the forest, after the two ran for a while, they found that no one was chasing them. The two stopped and found a hidden cave to meditate to heal their injuries. Every move they made was in the little snake's consciousness, which transmitted a message to Yuan, "Master, they are healing in the cave, are we just going to wait like this?" Yuan said lightly. The little snake didn't ask any more questions and just stopped on the big tree not far from their cave. The two people did not finish their injuries so quickly. Yuan took the little snake into the space to have a rest. The little snake was also very tired, and her injuries were not healed. After entering the space, little snake went to recover. She went to see the serious members first. At that time, Sanzu was helping to wipe off the stolen things on his body. "Miss, you are here." The three pillars stood up and moved out of the way. "Well, go get some clothes and help him change them later." She performed a cleaning operation on the serious members, and the clothes were all in ruins. Three pillars nodded and left. Yuan checked again and found that his breathing had stabilized and there was no danger to his life. After that, she went to see Xiaobai. Whoa! Dabai saw her coming, bit the corner of her pants and pulled her to Xiaobai. She followed, and when she arrived, she patted Dabai on the head and said, "It's okay. The master is here. Xiaobai will be fine. Be good and lie down on the side." Dabai lay down on the side in a sensible manner, looking at her unblinkingly with his two tiger eyes. Yuan immediately applied several cleaning techniques to Xiaobai, and then checked that his internal injuries were basically not serious. After a few days of recovery, he was a lively white tiger again. "Dabai, don't worry, Xiaobai is fine. He will be fine after a few days of sleep." She stroked Dabai's fluffy white fur. Dabai purred a few times and lay down next to Xiaobai again. Yuan also returned to the bedroom and began to heal. When the master and servant came out of the space, The two people in the cave were still recovering from their injuries. Finally, one day later, the two of them checked around and then quickly flew to the deepest part of the forest. Monks in the foundation building stage can fly with swords, so the two of them walked through the forest, up and down, left and right, and almost lost the little snake. Yuan scolded her. They were afraid of being followed, so they flew over the forest from time to time. Sure enough, monks in the foundation building stage have much smarter minds. One night later, the two of them flew to the foot of a big mountain and stopped, using their hands to perform strange tricks in the air. Suddenly, a shining door opened in the middle of the ordinary mountain. The two people stepped in, and then returned to normal. Master, that's a concealment formation, so there's nothing to worry about. Do we just stay on guard outside, or do we break the formation and get in? The little snake sent a message to her. No, we are here to guard. She guessed that this was not the home of destruction, but at most a stronghold of that purple group. It is said that the cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. The monk's brain is much smarter than that of the cunning rabbit, and there are all 10 burrows. Sure enough, an hour after the two of them entered, a person appeared there. His cultivation was still at the early stage of foundation building, but it was just another person. He came out, looked around, and flew in another direction. The little snake immediately followed, keeping a distance. This time the monk did not fly around in a mess, but kept flying to one place. He would only occasionally wait and take a look, and then continue flying when he was sure no one was following. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 165. Chapter 165. The whole story. Just like this, the man stopped outside a big house. After looking around, he saw that there was nothing going on, and then he got into the house. The little snake put its consciousness over, and after a long time it sent a message, Master, basically all the people living here are monks, and there is no woman named Zi. Yuan nodded. She knew that it would not be so easy to catch up. At most, she could catch up with Zi. It was still too early to catch up with the 2 palace masters. It is estimated that we have to clear out their stronghold to see if they will show up. This time the master and servant stayed guard for a little longer. 3 days later, 2 people came out of the house. When they came out, they flew away, one on the left and the other on the right. Damn it, how are we going to chase her? Yuan cursed. Did they know she was following her? Master, the little snake didn't know which way to chase. Follow me as you please. If it's not what we're looking for, turn around immediately. Just remember there's no other way but to do this first. The little snake also nodded and immediately chased to the left. The man on the left is also flying very vigilantly, basically flying close to the ground. Yuan felt that this person should really report the news. Huh, why do you want to leave the forest? After chasing him for a day, the little snake found him flying out of the forest. Master, are we chasing the wrong one? Asked the little snake. Of course Yuan didn't know. She asked the little snake to stop flying and see where the man was going. After chasing him so far, if he really took them for a ride, she would definitely kill him. The man was probably tired and stopped to meditate and rest for a long time before flying again. It's just that he really flew out of the forest, and Yuan didn't move to see what kind of plane he was doing. After the man flew out, he entered the forest from another place an hour later and flew quickly inside. Sure enough, Yuan guessed that this person was the real reporter. He clearly wanted to get rid of the people who were following him. She curled her lips and smiled. How could this little trick be hidden from her? She estimated that the other person was really the messenger, but he was just prepared. If one person has an accident, the other person may not have an accident. She followed him all the way, and finally stopped at the top of a big mountain after half a day. It's so far and so high here. It's impossible to walk here. people who live here are good at choosing places. Looking down from high in the sky, she could see several wooden buildings, but in the middle of the wooden buildings was a large garden. Others cannot be seen clearly, and the little snake's divine consciousness cannot be reached. Master, would you like to go down a little bit so that we can see clearly? The little snake asked. No need, this must be the residence of the purple clothes. The garden in the middle can be seen, which is completely in line with the preferences of the daughter's family. Others say that she is in the middle stage of foundation establishment. The rumors are not credible and no one has reservations. Now that they are not strong enough, they cannot act rashly. Anyway, they know where Zi's lair is. Yuan watched for a while, but no one came out. She said, "Little snake, let's go." The little snake remembered this place, then turned around and flew towards the second stronghold, the house. There is a gathering place for the purple group monks. There are still hundreds of people, not to mention more than 1,000. Yuan wanted to do it, but it was too strong to do it. It would be good to get a few shrimps. The little snake didn't use much time when he went back. He wasn't led astray by twists and turns, so he naturally spent less time. The little snake stopped in mid-air and looked down with his consciousness. The 2 monks who were in the military camp were still there. There were 6 other monks in the foundation building stage and more than 600 people in the Chi training stage. Most of them lived in caves. The little snake told Yuan everything it found. Yuan pondered for a moment. She brought the little snake into the space. She had to find out how the 2 foundation building monks escaped and took hostages. She had to know whether the little snake was outmatched or there was another reason. In the wooden house, she put the little snake on the quilt and asked, "Little snake, can you tell me now how you let them run away?" The little snake drooped its head and groaned, and said, "Master, I originally covered the 2 of them in the barrier, and caught them both off guard. I wanted to kill them, but I thought the master wanted to take something out of their mouths, so I only injured them. At this time, there was a fight outside. I saw that the 2 people had no resistance and were in my barrier, so I went out. Help. There happened to be a few Chi training people who wanted to run away, so I went to help Xiajin. Unexpectedly, the 2 foundation building monks used some method to break the barrier and ran out. I sensed the barrier after they came out. Then I came back to catch them, but I didn't want to happen to encounter the hostess and the others fighting with the last soldiers, so I asked Yu Yi and the others to leave the fighting center. At that time, De Bai and Xiao Bai took them to the edge to guard. Someone was running away. I happened to catch up, and the 2 people sensed it, and they immediately took 2 people hostage. At this time, Dabai and Xiaobai ran up to save people. Dabai was injured by one of them. Xiaobai was angry when he saw Dabai was injured. The foundation building monk didn't expect Xiaobai to rush towards him desperately. At that time, I caught up with him again. The man was so anxious that he had to throw away the man in his hand and catch Xiaobai who was rushing towards him. Xiaobai was caught, and it was anxious. It couldn't fight anyone, so it could only struggle to get up and look for you. I chased after them and asked them to let them go. Surrounded, waiting for you to come. The little snake finished speaking in one breath. It lowered its head and did not dare to look at her. Yuan sighed. If she hadn't been injured, these things wouldn't have happened. They were all careless during the fight. Fighting with monks was different from fighting with ordinary warriors. The monk has his own magic. As long as he is given a little chance, he will still make a comeback. She picked up the little snake and patted it gently. She knew that the little snake blamed itself and was even more afraid of her punishing it. "Little snake, master doesn't blame you. We were careless this time. Fortunately, although we were injured, our lives are not in danger. When we face the enemy in the future, we can kill them with one blow. We don't have to worry. As long as they are not if I specifically request it, I will kill it directly. She is a human being, and she is still an adult soul. There are times when she is careless. Let alone the little snake, she is not a snake. How can she understand the complexity of human beings? The little snake nodded. Now it was in a better mood and nuzzled into her palm. After Yuan knew the cause and effect of the matter, it was not that the little snake was not strong enough, then the master and servant would definitely not let these people go. They would kill as many as they could and collect some interest. They just stepped out and almost ran into Xiao Jin. "Ah, master, I've finally waited for you," Xiao Jin cried. Yuan saw Mujukan and her three brothers sitting on Xiaojin's body. "Xiao Sier, are you okay?" Yu Heiran looked at her worriedly. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 166. Chapter 166 Chapter 166 Sneak Attack. "It's okay, brother, why are you here?" Yu Heiran said, "Don't worry about you. Once settled, we'll find him. The little snake's breath is here. Xiao Jin just asked us to wait." "What's the situation now?" Yuan took a look at the house below, and then at the four of them. "They could build a big one today," she said. "How about this? It's not appropriate for us to talk about things in the air. Find a place and I'll tell you everything. Then we can figure out how to do something big again. How about that?" Mujukan looked at her beautiful, confident, and bright eyes and nodded. The three Yu Heiran brothers naturally have no objections. So the little snake found a place. After descending, the little snake set up a barrier and the five people sat down. "Xiao Sier, what's going on? Tell me quickly." Yu Hao couldn't wait to ask as soon as he sat down. "Don't worry, eat something, aren't you hungry?" "Eat, eat, eat, of course you have to eat, take it out quickly." Yu Haoshan immediately took a table and placed it in the middle. Xiao Sier had a lot of delicious food, and just in time, they were all hungry. Yu Hao rolled his eyes at him. This foodie lost his image when it came to eating, as if his mother didn't give him anything to eat. Yu Hao just ignored him. It happened that Yuan had already laid out the food, so he should take the barbecue and eat it first. Ah, the meat cooked by Xiaocer was so delicious, he kept praising it in his heart. Mujukan smelled the aroma of the barbecue and couldn't help but pick it up and eat it. "As soon as I took the barbecue into my mouth, it was the first time I had eaten this fragrant and spicy barbecue. It was really delicious." No wonder Yu Haoshan ignored his brother's contempt. The meat was not only spicy but also tender and smooth. He glanced at Yuan and realized that these delicacies came from her hands. Did he find a treasure? After several people had eaten and drank, Yuan made tea and gave each person a cup. She then told what she and the little snake had tracked. Mujukan frowned. "Do you mean to end their nest here?" "Why not? I think it is feasible." After hearing this, Yu Hao agreed with both hands. He likes fighting the most. Yu Heiran also frowned. They knew how much their own strength was, but he was not as impulsive as Yu Hao. He asked, "Xiao Sier, what are your plans?" Yuan looked at them, she smiled slyly and said, "Me, when you didn't come, you just grabbed whatever you wanted and left. Now that you are here, you must grab more. Of course, how capable we are, just do whatever it takes." Mujukan and Yu Heiran nodded at the same time. They just said that there were so many people on the other side, how could they kill them? They are all monks, and which monk is a fool? Yuan added, "We are conducting a sneak attack. We cannot kill them openly and let the little snake trap them with a barrier. What do you think?" The four of them nodded in agreement. Sneak attacks and assassinations were their special skills. What's more, they attacked and killed one by one. The 5 people discussed the specific sneak attack plan, and then Yuan found some talismans and divided them into a pile for each person. She looked at the talismans in her hand. These were the last ones. They would be gone when they are used up. She thought that she had to find a way to draw the talismans by herself. It happened that there was a complete collection of talismans in the space, but there was no paper, pen, and zusha. After the things here are settled, go back and study with the little snake. Then let's go. Mujukan stood up and saw that it was getting late. Okay, the 4 brothers and sisters stood up and packed up. The little snake enlarged its body, and the 4 of them sat on it, with Xiaojin following behind. As night fell, the house was quiet, and the little snake landed behind the house, in front of the last cave. The little snake had already figured out when it was in mid-air. This was the foundation building monk who had escaped back. His cave was just at the edge, which was the best place for them to start. The 5 people jumped down, and the little snake instantly covered the 5 people and the cave in the barrier again. The little snake flew above the entrance of the cave first. Yuan and the other 5 hid 2 people on each side. Only Mujukan stood in the middle of the stone door. Xiaojin finally, at Yuan's signal, shot out a mouthful of spiritual power and hit the stone door. Boom, the stone gate was broken with a loud bang. When the monk in the foundation building stage heard that the stone door of the cave was broken, he ducked to the door with his sword in hand. Ah, is it you? He raised his hand casually, and a burst of spiritual power hit Mujukan in front of him. Boom, 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 Yuan and the 5 of them threw the talisman they had prepared long ago at the same time. Both sides retreat at the same time. Boom, 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 the talisman collided with the spiritual power, making a violent explosion sound. At this time, the little snake replenished its spiritual power and struck the monk in the foundation building stage. It regretted so much that it had not killed this man at that time, otherwise there would not have been so many things later. Puff puff puff, the foundation building monk tried to avoid the air wave of the explosion, but could not avoid the snake's blow, and he was hit. In the midst of a sudden retreat, he fell backwards and fell to the ground, wounded and vomiting blood. Mujukan saw that he was injured, but when he saw him swaying, he reached the foundation building monk in a few steps. He immediately threw 2 fireball spells on the man, and when he turned back, another fireball charm was added. Fast, this kind of footwork is really amazing. Yuhairan and his sisters were stunned. This is much faster than the light body technique. And the monks in the foundation building stage were burned all over the ground, roaring heartbreakingly. Several people couldn't bear to look directly at him and turned off their hearing. When the fireball spell and fireball talisman were extinguished, the monk in the foundation building period was left with only a scorched black mass. After confirming that he was completely dead, they went in, pulled the storage bag off the body, and then searched it. After that, several people looked at each other and smiled. This time, they worked together to kill a foundation building monk, which ended perfectly. At this time, the little snake finally felt half relieved. Quickly, clean the battlefield and move on to the next one, Yuan said quickly. This one alone took a stick of incense. The next attacks were much faster, and they were mainly in the chi training stage. They were basically defenseless and hit in one hit. Half the night passed and they killed nearly 40 people. By this time, the little snake was very tired. Master, I can't hold it anymore, let's go, the little snake sent a message to Yuan. Yuan was stunned for a moment, and then she slapped her head. The little snake had been using her spiritual consciousness and spiritual power, and it was all consumed without replenishment. Brother, retreat quickly, the little snake can't hold on any longer. Yuan quickly sent a message to the 4 of them. The 4 of them turned around and immediately retreated. Xiaojin enlarged his body, and the 5 of them flew up to him. Xiao Jin soared into the sky. When Xiao Jin flew into the air, Yuan took the little snake into the space. After dawn, Xiao Jin flew to the place where Feng and the others settled. You are back. Ms. Feng saw Xiao Jin flying down from a distance, and she hurried up to meet him. She had been worried these past few days, fearing that something might happen to the children. Now that she saw them returning safely, she felt at ease. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 167. Chapter 167. The envoy from the Empire of Japan comes. When Xiaojin stopped, the 5 people jumped down. Mom, we are fine. Yu Heiran and his 3 brothers quickly stepped forward and took Feng's hand and said comfortingly. Yuan took Xiaojin and Mujukan and came to Feng. You are all back. Let's go back quickly. Your uncle Fei Ge sent a message saying that there is something urgent, Feng said again. Is it an emergency? Did uncle say what it is? Yu Heiran asked. Ms. Feng shook her head and said, I didn't say what it was. I just asked us to go back. Yu Heiran pondered for a moment, and then said, that's it, then pack it up and let's go back now. Generally, all important matters in the court are handled by the ministers themselves. What matters require them to go back? They all wished that the 3 of them were not here. 1 is a writer, 2 is a warrior. The 3 of them are masters who are not afraid of offending anyone. 1 of them is sharp in speaking and doing things. The 3 of them are favored by the emperor. Basically, none of them can be well behaved in front of the emperor or sell well. Yuan nodded and asked everyone to clean up first, while Xiao Jin took the opportunity to take a rest. She also went to the camp where Yu Yi and the others were resting. Master, are you back? Xiner noticed that she was outside her tent, and she hurried out. Well, hurry up and clean up. Yuan smiled and patted her head. In a blink of an eye, Xiner was 11 years old. She would be a big girl in a few years, and time went very quickly. Master, Shidu and Wu Sheng also came over after hearing the sound. Their tents were on the left and right of Xiner, and they had been packed up now. Well, go and help the 44 of them clean up. We have to return to Beijing quickly. Okay, let's go right away. The 2 of them walked towards the tent of the 44 children. At this time, Xiner also packed up and put the things into the storage bag. She came and took Yuan's arm and said, Master, we still got the spoils. If there is a mission next time, can we still come? Yuan looked down at her and said, are you afraid of such a scene? Xiner shook his head, Master, I'm not afraid. I saw a lot of dead people on the way to escape, and gradually I'm not afraid anymore. And didn't you say that? You can't be soft or merciful when dealing with your enemies. It's not them, death is our death. Yuan held her hand and sighed, such a young girl can face fighting and death. She must have experienced such cruel things to have such a kind heart. From now on, Xiao Lu must be allowed to practice with them, otherwise he will only be interested in cooking every day and miss the opportunity to practice. She can protect Xiao Liuyi for a while, but cannot protect her for the rest of her life. She is not worried about her 3 disciples, whether they are in cultivation or character. If one day she really has to leave this continent, they will still be able to live well. Well, Xiner is very good. This time I came out to see highly skilled people perform spells and their fighting skills. You can understand them yourself after you go back. I believe you will gain something different. Xiner nodded and said, Masters who know, they are faster and more skilled than me. I will practice more when I go back. Master, this is for you. Xiner took out 2 spiritual stones and held them up in front of her. Keep it for yourself, the master has it. This spiritual stone will be of great use at critical times. Yuan touched Xiner's head, and the child honored her with the most precious thing. Xiner was a little disappointed. She didn't have anything good to show off to her master. Among the spoils she received this time, only 2 spiritual stones were the most precious. Yuan felt something. She held Xiner's hand tightly and said, Xiner, be good, the master knows your thoughts. When you grow up, how about you slowly respect the master? Xiner nodded, walked to the 44 children with her, and helped them pack their things. 5 days later, Xiaojin landed in front of the cave in Jiaowei Mountain. Yuan, 3 apprentices, 44 children, and Yu Yi came down. Feng and the others returned to the capital first to see what happened. In the imperial palace, in the royal study, the emperor watched Yu Heiran, Yu Hao, and Mujukan return, and he breathed a heavy sigh of relief. Yu Heiran saw that he was relieved. He raised his hands and asked, Your Majesty, what happened? The emperor sighed and said, The 3 princes of the Great Sun Empire brought their princesses and envoys to our great Yan Empire. They said they came to make friends with Qin and Jin and deepen the friendship between the 2 countries. Yu Heiran frowned after hearing this. What then? Then, what's next is that their princess will marry me as my concubine, and their 3rd prince will ask to marry me, my 4th son. The emperor spoke softer and softer, all the while staring at Yu Heiran's face. Sure enough, the 3 of them were shocked. Their faces turned dark immediately, and they were also covered in cold air. The emperor was shivering from the cold. How could he, a 2nd-level Qi practitioner, bear the cold air from 3 people at the same time? He didn't understand why Mujukan was so grim and cold. Mujukan asked coldly, What else? Yu Heiran brothers turned to look at Mujukan, who was colder than them. Could this person be? The 2 brothers looked at each other and nodded. Haha, now there is something to watch. It turns out that their 4th child is still very popular. They are worried now. With this big killer around, it is estimated that anyone who beats Xiao Seer will not end well. The emperor was stunned for a long time. His eyes rolled around and turned to the faces of the 2 brothers. Oh, I got it. He spoke seriously, straightening his back, and said, Otherwise, the friendship between the 2 countries will be severed. I have arranged a dinner tomorrow night to welcome the envoys of the Japanese Empire. All my dear friends must attend. Oh, yes, now, please take your family with you and kneel down. Kneel down. The 3 of them shook their sleeves and left the imperial study. Ha ha ha, interesting, interesting. The emperor couldn't help laughing. The 3 of them left the palace. Mujukan and Yu Heiran didn't even say hello to the brothers, but ran straight to the city gate. The 2 brothers looked at him walking away with smiles. Ha ha ha, there are people who are more anxious than us. When did this kid fall in love with our 4th son? Yu Hao said. Let's go back and tell your mother, she's still waiting. Yu Heiran took a photo of Yu Hao. The 2 brothers quickly returned to Yufu. Mujukan walked out of the city gate, gathered up his spiritual power and ran straight to the mountain. After Yuan came back and made arrangements, she entered the wooden house, closed the door and windows and stepped into the space, having a good night's sleep. Then she poured out the contents of the storage bag she had collected to see what she had gained. After cleaning up, she shook her head. She was too poor. In addition to dozens of talismans, there were only a dozen spiritual stones, and other gold, silver and other common objects were unattainable. The resources in this world are basically exhausted. The little snake said before that he could go to the world of cultivating immortals. It seems that it is necessary to go there. If you can, just bring your family with you. Yuan ate something and then stepped out of the space. She opened the door and walked out of the wooden house. Suddenly, Mujukan stepped forward, grabbed her and walked out, saying, "Follow me." End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 168. Chapter 168, Determination. Yuan was inexplicably pulled by him and had no choice but to follow him. Mujukan took her to a deserted place before stopping. He was facing her, looking at her indifferent but beautiful face. He took a deep breath and said seriously, "Miss Yu, I was rude just now. I was just so anxious. I hope you don't mind." Yuan also looked at him. To make this man so anxious must be something related to her. Her brother didn't even come, but when he came, there was no need to think that someone was trying to get her married. After all, she has passed her hair age. She was not in a hurry and didn't say anything. She wanted to hear what he had to say. However, she nodded to show that she didn't mind. Mujukan didn't know what to say when he saw her looking so calm. He paused, and it was better to make it clear. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he believed that Yuan would not be able to get married, but that did not mean that she did not like the third prince. It is rumored that the third prince of the Great Sun Empire was extremely handsome, proficient in literature, Taoism, and military strategy, and was very resourceful. Such a person is superior to him in every aspect. He mustered up the courage to look into Yuan's eyes and said, "Wan, I like you very much, love you very much, want to be with you forever, and I want to marry you. You can completely destroy that imperial edict, I really want to marry you." He was not asking for her consent, but stating the facts. Yuan almost got goosebumps when she heard the last "waner" sound. Such a tall, cold, and handsome man could actually scream as gentle as water. She almost broke her skills. She didn't react at all, just looked at Mujukan's nervous and anxiously waiting evil face quietly. She has never thought about marriage or getting married. She is only 15 years old, not to mention she is still a monk, so getting married is very far away. After a long while, Yuan opened her red lips and said, "Is there someone asking the emperor to marry me?" Mujukan was confused for a moment after hearing what she said. Shouldn't she respond to him? What he said was completely wrong, and his face immediately changed color and returned to normal. Yuan saw his change in her eyes. She shook her head and sighed softly. It would be better for her to explain this matter clearly to avoid any trouble in the future. To be honest, if a handsome man like Mujukan doesn't fall in love, it would be a lie. From the first time she saw him, her heart seemed to have fallen on him. He was talented, handsome, and had better cultivation than her, but the most important thing was his character. There is no woman around Nian 21, he does not wander around, and he does not have an affair with anyone, so he can be considered clean and self-sufficient. She turned around and walked slowly to the side, her voice lingering in her mind, "Mujukan, you have to understand the meaning of what you just said. If you want to marry me, you can only have one woman in your life. And I won't get married before I build a foundation. The time is uncertain. Maybe 10 years later, maybe 100 years later, or I won't be able to build a foundation in this life. Are you still going to marry me?" After saying that, she turned around and looked at Mujukan steadily. Huh, Mujukan was startled. She thought Yuan would reject him directly. Of course he will marry her later. As long as she agrees, he will marry her no matter what. He nodded heavily, and his icy face immediately became much softer. He said, "I will wait, no matter how long, I will wait for the day when you agree to marry me. I, Mujukan, swear to God that I will only marry you, Yuan, in this life one, there will be no second woman. If I disobey, I will die." Puk, Yuan smiled. She looked at the sky. Didn't he know that monks can't swear to heaven? Once you have made it, you cannot break it. If you break it, the consequences will definitely be as you promised. Don't you know that monks can't swear to heaven at will? Mujukan nodded, looked at Yuan and said, "I know, that's why I swear." Yuan said half jokingly and half seriously, "What if I die one day? In the world of monks, No one can guarantee a long life. It is impossible to say that one may be well one moment but be killed the next moment. Mujukin said neatly, "Wherever you go, I will go." Yuan rolled her eyes at him, but she was in a good mood. Since he had already done this, she didn't pretend to be pretentious, so she said, "Okay, I promise you, I will not destroy the imperial edict. No matter what, it was given by my uncle. I still have to save some face for him when I get married." "Really? Wan'er, thank you." Mujukin hugged her and smelled the unique fragrance of her body. He wanted to hug her for a long time. Holding her in his arms, he felt that this was not a dream, but real, which made him feel at ease. Well, this was so sudden. Yuan, who was nestled in his arms, was in a daze. She didn't know where to place her arms and legs. Her heartbeat was obviously accelerating and her face was getting hot. Smelling the ambergris on his body, she felt dizzy. Ah, what a monster! Mujukin, who was holding her, noticed something strange about her. He smiled and hugged her harder. Cough cough cough, several inappropriate coughs separated the two people. "General Mu, you move very quickly," Yuhairan said through gritted teeth. Mujukin held Yuan's hand, nodded seriously and said, "We must be fast." Yuhairan was speechless for a moment. "Brother, you're here." Yuan broke free from Mujukin's hand. She walked up to Yuhairan and asked calmly, "Ah, if Big Brother doesn't come, you will probably be picked up by the big-tailed wolf tomorrow, huh?" Yuhairan snorted at Mujukin. Let's go back and talk." Yuan took Yuhairan back to the wooden house. The three of them returned to the wooden house and sat down. Yuhairan could no longer hold his breath. He asked, "What do you mean?" "Mom is worried about you." "I came here so fast, but it doesn't make us really worried." After saying that, he didn't forget to throw a knife's eye at Mujukin. Mujukin had already returned to his usual cold and handsome demeanor. He said, "Master Yu, it is just as you expected. Don't worry, I am sincere to Wan'er. I will handle the rest of the matter." Yuhairan, who had always been calm and wise, suddenly got angry, punched Mujukin in the face, and cursed angrily, "Handle it, you're a fool to handle it. How old is my fourth child? If you dare to lie to her, I will kill you." "Feed it to the dog." Their beloved sister was about to be snatched away by a big-tailed wolf. He was so angry. He hated the iron and said to Yuan, "Xiao Sier, it's not that my eldest brother won't let you get married. Why don't you take a closer look? The third prince of the Sun Empire has come to ask the emperor to marry you. Although their reasons are its marriage, you can take a look before making a decision." Mujukin still looked calm. He touched his face and found that half of his face was swollen. He narrowed his eyes. "Hey, he doesn't take the healing pills and doesn't do any exercises, just like this, Wan'er will definitely feel distressed when he sees it." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 169. Chapter 169 Dinner Party 1. Snort. Yuhairan, "Uncle Yu, let's ride on the donkey and read the songbook. We'll see what happens as we go." Yuan held her forehead and took a look at Mujukin's pig-headed face and her elder brother who was still angry. Alas, this beautiful thing was about to go bad. She knew that Yuhairan could not get angry easily, but this time he was really angry. She had to calm down this anger. "Well, can't you just treat this guy as calmly as usual?" She turned her head and glanced at Mujukin, who instantly understood what she meant. He really didn't want to go out, but Yuhairan looked like he wanted to eat people, and now he was afraid that if he said too much, he would be wrong. "That's all, Let Wanner handle it this time. So he stood up, nodded to the two of them, and walked out. Yuan sat over and sat next to Yu Heiran. She held his hand and said, "Brother, don't worry. You still don't know what I do. I will only marry after I promise him to build a foundation. Besides, I really mean it please him. Xiao Sier, I can't bear to leave you." Yu Heiran's voice was choked with sobs. When he thought that the happy life of their family was all due to his sister, he just wanted to take good care of the family and love his family well. Yuan stretched out her hand to wipe his tears. Her eldest brother, when did he become so sad? Brother, are you stupid? Even if I get married one day, I won't just leave home. Maybe I will still live at home like my mother and there will be a free thug at home. Isn't that good? Since you have made your decision, you can't live up to it. Mujukan is a good person. He knows what he knows. After we have been together for many years. Yu Heiran rubbed his eyes and nodded Yuan's forehead. His eldest brother is still soft-hearted. The eldest brother will also marry a sister-in-law in the future, and there will be a second brother and a third brother. Our family will be a big family in the future. Yu Heiran shook his head and said, "Eldest brother has not thought about marrying a wife now, he just wants to practice with peace of mind. I also plan that when the emperor can truly control the great Yan Empire, then the second and third sons and I will come back to concentrate on cultivation. They all want to go further." But after he finished speaking, he frowned. It was not easy to go further. He could only take one step at a time. Having embarked on this path and given this opportunity, let alone immortality, what's the point of living for a few hundred more years? At this time, Yuan knew about Yu Heiran's plan. They wanted to take the next step, which was to build the foundation. To be honest, the spiritual energy in this world is not enough for monks to break through to foundation building, unless they have the foundation building pill mentioned in the jade slip, or enter her space to break through. Don't even think about the foundation establishment pill. 1 or 2 people can enter her space, but if so many people enter the space to break through, it won't be enough to support all of them to break through. At most, 4 people can consume all the spiritual energy in the space. Then you really need to think carefully about leaving this continent. It's just that it's not the time to talk about this yet. Let's talk about it later. Let's see what Big Brother and the others decide then. Yu Heiran saw that she seemed thoughtful, so he quietly left the wooden house without disturbing her and went to the underground cave to practice. Mujukan saw Yu Heiran entering the cave. He entered the wooden house and saw Yuan sitting on the chair blankly, not even noticing that he was coming. "Huh, my eldest brother is gone." Yuan came to her senses and saw only her and Mujukan. "Go to the hole in the ground." "Oh, how is your face?" She saw that his face was still red and swollen. Mujukan smiled, shook his head and said, "It's okay, I did it like this to avoid getting punched again." Yuan rolled her eyes at him, took out a bottle of healing elixir from the space and gave it to him, saying, "Take one. After eating it, let's go down and practice." Mujukan nodded. After he swallowed one, the redness and swelling on his face quickly receded. "The emperor will host a dinner party tomorrow night, will Wanner go?" "Go, why not go, are you worried?" Mujukan nodded honestly, "That third prince is very good." "Pucci, you don't have much confidence in yourself, why don't I just like someone when I see you?" "It's true. I believe if you knew him first, I wouldn't have a chance. There are still such awesome people?" "Then go take a look tomorrow night and see how many heads and arms the man who even Mujukan is willing to defeat has grown. Let's go and practice first." The two of them got up and walked towards the cave. The next afternoon at Shenchi, Yuan took Xiaoliu into the palace. Others entered the palace early to help arrange the palace banquet in the evening. Except for the Empress Dowager, there were not even any concubines in the palace. Therefore, the Feng family will handle the arrangements on behalf of the Empress Dowager, and it will be enough for the Empress Dowager to show up when the time comes. Today the palace is extremely lively and festive, with palace lanterns hung everywhere. There were many people coming and going, all heading towards the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Fourth sister, let's go to the Imperial Grandmother's palace. Xiaoliu was not used to seeing so many people. Yuan nodded. The two sisters changed their route and walked to Fenyang Palace. Princess Wanqing and Princess Qinjiao, you are here. The Empress Dowager talks about you every day. As soon as they arrived, and who came out to greet them and bless the sisters. And who, please get up. Is the Queen's grandmother feeling well these days? Yuan hurriedly helped Anhu up. After Anhu stood up, she looked at the two beautiful sisters with a smile. She made a gesture of invitation and said, the Queen Mother is in the same body as before. She just keeps saying that you didn't come to see her and forgot about her every day. What time? We will come when we have time. She turned around and asked Aunt Chu and Aunt Ji behind her to wait in the side hall, and then entered the main hall. The sisters walked directly through the main hall to the back garden. Sure enough, the Queen Mother was still holding a shoriad to wash the flowers, and the maid next to her was carrying water for her. Grandmother, the two sisters shouted at the same time. Hey, the AI family girl is here. She put down the shower in her hand, and Aunt who next to her immediately went over to help her. The two sisters walked into her, Granny who let go, and each of the sisters walked toward the main hall holding an arm. When Yuan was supporting her, she used her spiritual consciousness to take a look at the body of the Empress Dowager. She found that it was okay and she would be able to live well for 20 years without any problem. Had it not been for the suffering she suffered in the imperial mausoleum, which had caused her body to suffer from underlying diseases and hidden diseases, otherwise the Empress Dowager would have lived to be 100 years old with the elixir in her hand. Now, the disease has been cured, but the body function has declined, which even gods cannot cure. Oh, my darlings are getting more and more beautiful. The Queen Mother looked left and right, which made her very happy. Are you looking more and more like the Imperial Grandmother? Xiaolu asked her, tilting her head. Haha, the little boy from the AI family will make fun of the AI family. You and your mother are modeled after your Imperial grandfather. Alas, I think of him all the time. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 170. Chapter 170 Dinner Party 2. Yuan looked at the Empress Dowager's happy expression when she mentioned her grandfather. Her brows were filled with memories. She was wondering what kind of person the Imperial grandfather was. Judging from the stunning looks of the Supreme Emperor, the current Emperor, and the Feng family, they can imagine how magnificent the Emperor's grandfather was back then. In the words of the Empress Dowager, he was still a man who was dedicated but not sentimental. Born as an emperor, there should be 3,000 beauties in the harem, but at that time there were the current Empress Dowager and the dead old woman Wan. No wonder the old witch wanted to bewitch him, but it was just a mistake. The sisters listened and helped the Empress Dowager back to the main hall. Yuan sighed and let out a long sigh. She was born in an emperor's family and couldn't help herself. Are you tired of listening to the Queen's grandmother nagging you? She asked jokingly when the sisters helped her sit down. How could it be possible, grandmother the Queen? In the future, Xiaolu will also find a husband like the grandfather. The Queen Xiaolu happily sat on the left side of the Queen Mother. You, don't be ashamed. Such an older girl just wants to find a husband. Look at your sister, she's already hairdressed. Your mother is not in a hurry. The Empress Dowager nodded dotingly on Xiaoliu's forehead, and then took a look. Yuan on the right. Yuan pursed her lips and smiled. They were not in a hurry, so long as someone was in a hurry. She served the scented tea with spiritual spring water to the Empress Dowager. The Queen Mother took the tea and took a few sips. She put it down, took Yuan's hand, put it in her palm, and said warmly, "Does our little girl Wan have someone you like? If so, tell Grandma Huang." Grandma makes the decision for you. Yuan had black lines all over her head. What should she say? Seeing the kind old man who cared so much for her, it was better to tell her, so she told her what happened with Mujukan. The Queen Mother breathed a sigh of relief after hearing this. She nodded repeatedly and patted Yuan's hand. Okay, okay, this kid is fine. Now I, an old woman, have one less person to worry about. Alas, it's your uncle now, there is no one around, what will I do in the future? And your cousin, he is almost 20, and he is not getting married. How will I see your imperial grandfather after I die? Yuan didn't know that the Empress Dowager alone controlled the hearts of so many people. In such a large palace, the three masters were all bachelors. Grandma, everyone has their own destiny, so you just have to live happily every day. What do you want to eat? Our Xiaoliu is a chef, so let her prepare something delicious for you. Yes, I forgot about it. If the fourth sister didn't tell me. Xiaoliu quickly took out a lot of food from his storage bag and put it on the table. Haha, my little darling has done so much. The Empress Dowager was very impressed. The Queen Mother, the palace banquet is about to begin, and the Ruanluan outside is ready, and who stepped forward to report. Oh, let's go then. The Queen Mother took a look at the things on the table. She asked the palace maid to put them away carefully, then she took them one by one and walked out of the palace. 3 soft sedan chairs were prepared outside, and the 2 sisters helped her get into her soft sedan chair. After that, Yuan got on the second chair and urged her to follow the sedan, followed by Xiaolu and Aunt Chu. When the 3 of them came to the Hall of Supreme Harmony, they found that the Empress Dowager was the only one missing. The 2 sisters still got off the sedan and supported her on the left and right sides. At this time, at the entrance of Tahi Hall immediately sang, "The Empress Dowager, Princess Wanking, and Princess Kinjao have arrived." There was silence in the main hall at this time. Everyone craned their necks and looked at the entrance to the right-hand side of the rostrum. When the 3 people entered slowly, everyone in the hall except the envoys of the Great Sun Empire knelt down to greet the most noble woman of the Great Yan Empire. Congratulations to the Empress Dowager, may the Empress Dowager be blessed. The 2 sisters were about to kneel down, but she pulled them. She gently shouted to the people below, "Everyone, please get up. Everyone, thank you, the Queen Mother." She looked at the envoys of the Great Sun Empire and said, "Tonight, everyone will eat and drink well with the distinguished guests who have come from afar. We, the Great Yan Empire, welcome you." At this time, a man in his early 20s, dressed in white robes, with a gentle temperament, handsome and elegant appearance, walked out of the Japanese Empire mission on the first table at the lower left. He bowed deeply to the Empress Dowager. "Great Ri Chu Yongxiao thanks the Queen Mother, and thanks Emperor Dian for the warm hospitality." "Haha, third prince, you're welcome, please go back and take a seat," the Empress Dowager still said very gently. She looked exactly like a kind old lady, without any airs of the Empress Dowager. When Chu Yongxiao raised his eyes inadvertently looked at Yuan, who was looking straight down. Sure enough, it was the same as the information he got during the investigation. Princess Wanking of the Great Yan Empire was so beautiful that he almost got stunned. He immediately returned to their table and sat down, glancing at Yuan with purposeful indifference. After the Queen Mother sat down on the stage, she asked the palace maid to add 2 seats next to her for the sisters and asked them to accompany her. Yuan had no choice but to look into the main hall with her consciousness. All the civil and military officials and their families were here. The young ladies and gentlemen from each family were dressed up like 100 flowers in bloom. Many girls' eyes fell on Chu Yongxiao, who had just gone down. Of course, more people are staring at the 2 sisters, both men and women. The men are in love with them, while the women are envious, jealous, and hateful. At this moment, a fiery gaze was cast towards him, and when Yuan looked with consciousness, it was Chu Yongxiao who had just been there. Yuan frowned. In Mujukin's opinion, this rare and awesome person was nothing more than that. And Mujukin are two people with completely different styles. Chu Yongxiao's appearance is as gentle as jade, and he is extraordinary handsome. The white clothes make him look even more elegant, giving him a fairy-like feeling. Mujukin's face was cold and handsome, resolute and angular, and his tall and straight figure made people feel more secure. What? Are you stunned? At this time, Mujukin's voice came to her ears. She looked with consciousness and saw that this guy was at the table below her brother and the others, and at the third table to the emperor's left. She rolled her eyes at him, and the guy's consciousness followed her, and she sent a message, "It's not bad, but it's a pity that it's not my thing." Mujukin's eyes lit up after hearing this, "But this dish? What's your dish?" Alas, I still have to explain some modern words to this ancient person. Forget it, try not to say them in the future. It's just not my type, you understand? Oh, that's what it means. It means Warner doesn't like that kind of person. Uncle Mu and Mu were sometimes happy and sometimes worried when they saw Mujukin. They didn't know what was going on with him. They caught a glimpse of Mujukin's eyes from the corner of their eyes, and then glanced at Yuan who was standing above them. The two brothers looked at each other. Is this son full of youth? Of course they don't know about the imperial edict. End of this chapter.